Alrighty, I'm going to kick it off now. So thank you everyone for joining today. Couple of items. Is this going to go for around 45 minutes today? So really appreciate everyone's time. One of the things I will ask from everyone before we get into it is Q&A. We'd ask that that's dropped in the chat box. We are going to have people monitoring that chat box, but because we've got 45 minutes, we might not get to all the questions. So please bear with us. We'll endeavor to respond to them after the session or at the back end of this session when we do some Q&A. So look, pleasure to have everyone here. We're going to cover, what happens, what are people doing right now? There's a bit of a juncture, and we need to figure out as organizations and business leaders what we're going to do moving on from SAP. So we thought it was it's something we're hearing a lot of in the market. So we really wanted to do a subject today with everybody on how we see, how we're helping our clients forge a path beyond SAP and how they're starting to drive true value and business value out of that. So introducing myself, my name is Alex Townend. I'm a managing director here at Black Diamond. So you might hear me sort of pop in and pop out, asking some questions and keeping the sort of dialogue going. But it's great to be here today. Thank you again for joining. We're really, really, really honored to have Chris jumping on this session with us to talk about his business transformation that he's achieved at DexKo. It's a fantastic story. We're really excited for Chris to talk about it. So Chris, just over to you to introduce yourself and a little bit about yourself before we get into it towards the end there.
You got it. Thanks a lot, Alex. So yeah, Chris Catapano, VP of Global Planning and Analytics at DexKo Global. We are a international manufacturer and distributor of engineered solutions, primarily for the towables market, which basically spans commercial trailers, specialty trailers, heavy-duty trailers, and then recreational applications such as RVs, as well as boat and marine trailers. So previous to this, public accounting, about 8 years of global investment banking on the research side at Credit Suisse, and then about 8 years of strategy and financial consulting in the Bay Area, a little bit of time in the VC software space, and then the last 5 years here at DexKo. So it's a little bit about me. I'll turn it over to Fred.
Thank you, Chris. Fred Solar. I currently serve as a strategic advisor with BDA, bringing over 25 years in revenue operations management, the last 4 in the OneStream ecosystem. I was chief revenue officer of a partner where we grew our OneStream practice by 300%. And prior to that, 7+ years at SAP and another 3+ years at Oracle, held multiple leadership roles there. So I'm innately familiar with the SAP ecosystem as well as OneStream.
No, fantastic. Thanks for that, Fred. And thanks, Chris. Really appreciate that. So, moving on to what we're going to cover today, myself, Chris, Fred, there's probably over 50 years of experience here in business transformation and accountancy, as well as various different vendors that we've touched on. We're really going to focus on SAP today and how Black Diamond and OneStream together are helping organizations just like DexKo transform their finance function and ultimately drive over to the operations as well. So we're going to start a little bit about us. Who are Black Diamond? There's going to be people on here today that might not have heard of us before. So we want to touch a little bit about on who we are. Why are we qualified to speak about SAP? Where have we done this? How have we helped organizations go through this journey? Fred's then going to do some exciting things around what he's seeing, what trends he's seeing in the market, what's happening at SAP. I think the Fred and Chris here is they truly are looking at this from more of an agnostic lens, right? And they're looking at the market constantly. They're constantly looking at how they can drive value. So Fred's going to touch on the SAP strategy, some of the options, and then ultimately we're going to focus in a little bit on OneStream. I'll get into that in the BDA sort of introduction that we're going to do. And finally, we're all here to listen to Chris. So we're really, really excited for him to share his journey. How OneStream enabled DexKo to really turn around their business, and enable business partnering, which is fantastic, and forge that path from SAP. whilst also extending what they've already got and how they're already invested in SAP. Following that, we're going to have a wrap up. So a lot of people have joined since I first did the introduction to the session. So just to recap, if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat box. We're going to be monitoring it. We might not get to them, or we're going to do Q&A at the end. And if we miss any, please rest assured we will be answering them at the end. The session is going to run for 45 minutes. So thanks everyone for that sort of joined just recently. So talking about Black Diamond as a business, in really simple terms, Black Diamond is a leading global specialist in OneStream. We've run over 250 of these finance transformations utilizing OneStream, bringing organizations from legacy technology into best-in-class cloud architecture and a platform, really unifying that data model. And over those 250 projects, what that's enabled us to do is then be really true business advisors and business partners. And it's also attracted some of the top tech and also accounting experts across the world. One of the things that we often do and the organizations that we work with, they really are truly global companies. What we find, and we've found to be a secret sauce, if you will, is that we are truly global, so we can partner with them on each of their regions and each of their business units requirements, and really get to understand them and drive that value through the organization. We do that by innovating in the way that we deliver. So we do that by leveraging our IP, our solutions, to accelerate the time to value so that they are able to get those core functions or those core business requirements met very fast and then focus on the true value add. And, Chris, DexKo, global business, right? What's the global stance and the advisory stance from BDA? How's that helped you in this journey of yours so far?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think from our perspective, that was one of the key reasons, one of several key reasons that we engaged BDA in our transformation. So we've got a significant amount of operations in North America, but then we also have, significant coverage both in Europe as well as the Australian, New Zealand market, right? So from a global perspective, each of those teams really are, have either their own ERP or their own portfolio of ERPs and their distinct business needs. And so what BDA really brought to the table was the ability to have boots on the ground in all of our regions, helping people in their local time zones, but then helping us integrate that into one global solution, which we've done. So from a global footprint standpoint, that was a big deal. From a execution standpoint, it's also served us really well. So whether it be our initial work to roll out consolidations, to roll out planning, or then earlier this year, fairly recently, in fact, we rolled out a significant enhancement to further enable us to plan and to have some additional functionality that really leverages our talent in a more meaningful way. And so when you do that, there's a lot of user acceptance testing that has to happen. There's a difference between once, quote unquote, right, you're in a live environment and you're actually forecasting and you've got new algorithms in place. BDA's got folks around the globe. So we've utilized that global footprint to say, hey, we've observed something in our European market. We need somebody in North America to help us remedy any issues that we're seeing overnight, or make some enhancements that we need overnight. So by the time Germany comes in at 8 a.m., Germany time, they're rocking and rolling with everything they need. Likewise, same thing in North America, right? We've utilized folks in their Australian, New Zealand team or their European team to help us iterate and get things knocked out by the time I've got people, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, North America, hitting the ground running at 8 a.m. local. And so that global footprint has been very meaningful to us. And it's been a key part of why we engage you guys.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it's, this is the strategic direction of the business, right? It's those core things. It's the solutions, it's the global. And of course, it's all we do is OneStream. So no matter where you reach out to us in the world, you're going to get an expert. So really, really appreciate that. So look, that's a little bit on who we are, that's who Black Diamond Advisory are, right? And I'm going to hand it over to Fred now, just to talk about some of our qualifications, some of the success that we've seen around SAP. So over to you, Fred.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Chris. So the number of SAP with OneStream clients is well over 300, growing daily. Here's just a sample success of the Black Diamond advisory experience. So, we just heard a little bit from Chris, and we'll hear a lot more about DexKo in a bit. But just to give you another couple examples, at Nordson, BDA crafted a OneStream solution to replace BPC, SAP's BPC, and significantly increase reporting capabilities. This included simplifying complex data integration of over 20 disparate global ledgers into workflows, creating advanced transformational rules, which was a CFO initiative. Another existing SAP ERP company, Generac, they evaluated several new EPM tools, including BPC, and they selected OneStream, and BDA did the implementation of OneStream with seamless integration to SAP to facilitate supply chain reporting. With automated translations, eliminations, overrides, significantly reducing manual efforts, as well as customized cost center allocations and constant currency functionalities to enhance financial accuracy. Quite frankly, the results were closing time from 6 to 3 days, compensation planning from a month to less than 2 days. And even more importantly, IT resolution from days to hours. So look forward to hearing a little bit more about DexKo's journey in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about what SAP's roadmap looks like and why we're at this junction today. So as SAP continues to transition its user base towards the S4 HANA landscape, finance leaders are truly at this crossroads, right? And so SAP's EPM push towards modernization is both momentous and quite frankly tumultuous. It's a big pivotal shift for a lot of organizations. So let's start by reviewing some of these current the current paths that are out there today for EPM customers in order to level set these options. So really the first option is that customers can continue to remain on SAP's ECC ERP and leverage SAP's BPC. As we'll show in a moment, while this seemingly is the easiest choice, it does come with a high degree of cost and risk. So first, there's an SAP mandate that mainstream support for these solutions will end in 2027, though extended support, again, with an added cost, will be available. Additionally, there's no new features, no innovation on the roadmap, and so you'll have growing challenges around security, compliance, and data integrity risks, and these will continue to grow as well. So here you can see that remaining on legacy SAP EPM products might appear to be the least resistant path, but it's still certainly a risky proposition. You've got that spaghetti-like architecture with stagnant technology. And again, SAP pledges maintaining these systems with no innovation. So it's a clear signal that you want to set your sights elsewhere. You've got aging solutions. This tech stack is over 15 years old, and innovation and maintaining the demands of agility and speed will continue to increase as well. And then you've got the potential support gaps and added expense. So again, 2027 is the current deadline. And if a customer hasn't moved, they'll see even those higher added support fees with the final deadline of 2030 looming. So these gaps simply provide risks in financial and operational interference that organizations must plan against. So this is clearly not the SAP EPM roadmap. So what is? And that's option 2. So this is the new EPM tool set that you'll see here in a moment. But this is also requires a full migration from SAP's ECC to S4 HANA. And I'm certain if you're an SAP customer on ECC, you've heard the SAP RISE pitch. RISE is simply an SAP offering to migrate on-premise SAP ECC or on-premise S4 HANA to the cloud. And before I even go further, let me just make it a point to say, as a former leader at SAP and a shareholder to this day, I truly believe SAP is an outstanding company with a leading ERP solution. However, moving from ECC to S4 HANA does require a large investment of capital. And even more importantly, when you're trying to innovate and react to business requirements, it takes a lot of time. So let me give you a deeper look. So again, while S4 is world-class, we can see their EPM capabilities still provide a full path full of uncertainties. First of all, it's still uncharted territory. The next-gen EPM solutions are still in their infancy with limited references. But more important is the major challenge of this still fragmented approach. the promise of a comprehensive solution is really fractured by multiple integration points and prolonged time to value. So let's drill down a bit further into a couple of the key requirements for the office of the CFO. In order to do planning analysis, you'll need to move data from S/4HANA to SAC Analytics, another system of record, giving you two different cloud environments, flat files, ODBC connections, multiple locations for data. In order to do account reconciliations, since SAP still doesn't have account reconciliations, you'll have to go to another vendor, Blackline, which is critical to the office of the CFO, and again, requires another integration point. For consolidations, SAP's BFC and BPC move to group reporting. The data does sit in S4, but it sits in a different table, which it needs to be then recopied from S4HANA's Universal Journal to a completely different table to take advantage of consolidations. Then, if you want to report out of SAP Analytics Cloud, you would need to move consolidations data back into SAP Analytics Cloud. And again, you got a lot of movement back and forth. And again, more integrations required. When you evaluate profitability and performance management needs, you can move data into SAP's APO or any other profitability tool outside of S4, again, requiring another integration. And a function critical to manufacturing and supply chain, which is IBP or integrated business planning, it's required for sales and operation planning processes, requires another set of solutions altogether. So really, to summarize, you've got 5 separate processes, 5 separate solutions, unique integrations back into S4 and between themselves. And this is just complexity. It's cost of additional solutions, licensing, upgrades, duplication efforts, and quite frankly, risk. Now, SAP does have an intent to use DataSphere to alleviate some of these challenges, but still requires an integration point and a level of complexity, multiple solutions and licenses for those mentioned functions. So you combine all of these challenges, and then having to conduct a full upgrade of ECC to S/4HANA and then deploy SAP Central Finance to start, you're looking at a minimum of 3 years before intelligent finance is recognized. And just to go one step further, only a third of SAP's ECC customers have actually migrated to S/4HANA at this point. And so as the clock continues to count down to 2027 and even 2030, available partners, resources to implement S4 become scarcer. And these timelines and additional risk of inexperienced SIs running the project become greater. So at the end of the day, while this is their roadmap, the largest obstacles still exist as time, complexity, and expense. Fortunately, and that's why we're here, we have the answers to questions. What do we do now and why? And really the answer is quite simply a modern solution for finance transformation, which has native integrations to SAP and other ERPs. It's the third option, and that's OneStream. So let's walk through a little bit on the advantages of using OneStream with SAP's ECC, S4, or any other ERP for that matter. First of all, OneStream offers a unified, single platform approach to financial planning, consolidation, reporting, and analytics. This eliminates the need for multiple disparate systems, reduces complexity and integration challenges. It's known for faster and more straightforward implementation process and complex migrations required for SAP S/4HANA. This can result in quicker time to value and less disruption to business operations. It provides flexibility to customize solutions without the need for extensive coding, which is really beneficial if you've got a heavily customized ERP today. They focus on delivering a user-friendly experience with intuitive interfaces, self-service capabilities, and this just leads to better adoption. And we'll hear more about that from Chris and the DexKo journey as it relates to getting what they need here in a moment.
Just on that, Fred, if I think of one of the standout things about OneStream that I hear from CFOs, I speak to CFOs daily. I've been doing this for over 12 years now. One of the fundamental wins that we often see the Office of Finance achieving with OneStream in comparison to other tools is that it's that unified data model and that built-in data quality engine. Chris is going to talk to us a little bit about it today, but businesses constantly change. You're constantly acquiring businesses. You're constantly divesting businesses. These things change. And having that built-in data quality engine provides the flexibility, the integrity, and the accuracy that is really, truly allowing companies like DexKo to succeed, right, in that flexibility. So just wanted to comment that in there, Fred.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you. And I would just say the last, obviously this is a comprehensive suite of financial solutions for budgeting, forecasting, financial close, reporting, and it's all integrated and streamlined. But where I think it really matters is in organizations, and I'm sure nobody on this call has an organization where there's any friction between the business and IT, but we do know that there are certain benefits for OneStream IT folks as well. There's that real-time integration with SAP or any other ERP. It's easier to manage and maintain. So you have less integrations, tools, or reliance on IT to support business functions. And there's, quite frankly, a simple licensing model, which allows IT group to optimize budgets and resources, all driving towards a lower total cost of ownership. So, I've talked a little bit about the value of OneStream and why it's important, but let's think about this in the frame of what do I do? Where do I go next? How do I start? And we believe that because ERP systems can be disruptive, upgrading ERP systems can be disruptive, especially in a financial management cycle. We believe EPM is more strategic to start with. First of all, OneStream can serve as that bridge to the future, if you will. And this is what kind of Alex has talked about, really integrating data from old ERP systems or multiple ERPs, HCM, CRM, any other system. And then as the new ERP system is implemented, older systems phased out, OneStream can then integrate that data from old and new systems, providing you that consistent, continuous platform for consolidation, reporting, planning, budgeting, forecasting, data migration, validation, et cetera. And with OneStream already connected to your existing data, then these migrations can now be streamlined. So transactional data can be loaded directly into OneStream. Any transformations, mapping between old and new accounts processed, and then written to in a SQL database or extracted to a flat file in an appropriate structure for batch loading into a new ERP. So in terms of matching or validating against historically reported numbers, with OneStream, you can run a multiple chart of accounts and multiple hierarchies and across multiple reporting formats and structures. And really, this allows you to load data from both existing and new ERPs into OneStream and have that report side by side. So you can then quickly see where ERP data is not matching what was previously reported. And again, most ERP projects are big 2 to 3 year implementation timeframes. And so the benefits aren't realized until that project is complete. But when you look at your EPM and OneStream in particular, you can typically be rolling out your first critical functionality in 6 months, whether that's budgeting, forecasting, consolidations, reporting. You just get quicker wins. And so with OneStream, you don't only get the functional capabilities you still lack, but you can achieve that faster time to value. So I've kind of level set here where we're at, what the options are. But I think we'd love to hear from Chris, Alex, if he could share his journey on DexKo and how they went through this.
Yeah, I think that's, that was such a great summary of, why we're all here today. So thanks for that, Fred. One of the things, you touched on some great stuff there that I think Chris is going to talk to, but that reduction of technical debt, the efficiency, the integrity, the sort of like unification, really, really great things. But one of the strategic ways that we partner with our clients, and we also help our prospective clients, is SAP ECC to S4. That's a big shift, right? The reason it is so large is not just because of the technology. It's because of the amount of business change that has been undertaken between 20 years ago when they put ECC in and where they are today with S4HANA. So what we're often seeing is it's not only the time to value, but it's a chart of account rationalization. It's starting to do your management and statutory reporting and consolidation, your hierarchies and dimensionality in that quicker time to value that you talked about, so that when you go to do that ERP transformation, it's quicker because you actually know where you're going. So on that, I think that's a great segue, Chris, to kind of hand over to you. And we've had I think almost 20 people join since Fred's been talking. So obviously you're doing something great there, Fred. People are hearing. But would you just be able to quick reintroduction to DexKo, and then tell us about your journey? Whatever you want to do, the floor is yours, Chris. Talk us through, what's it been like so far, and how are you going?
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, Alex. So yeah, for those that just joined real quick, so DexKo is, so I run global planning and analytics for a company called DexKo Global. DexKo is an international manufacturer and distributor of engineered solutions for the towables industry. So engineered solutions spanning everything from commercial trailers, heavy duty trailers, specialty applications, as well as recreational applications like RVs and marine trailers, right? So so that's our space. We're international, well over 100 manufacturing sites, distribution branches, as well as service centers around the world, predominantly in the US, Europe, some in South Africa, as well as a significant presence in Australia and New Zealand. So that's kind of our global footprint. We're a highly acquisitive company with a lot of ERPs as a result of those acquisitions, and we're consistently consolidating ERPs. But as you guys can imagine, as a high growth, highly acquisitive, dynamic company, that's an ongoing process that really never ends.
Yeah,
And
I can.
so when we kind of thought about like when OneStream and why OneStream, like one of the key things that stuck out to us, and I'm happy to say, like it blew our expectations away, was like speed to value, right? Time to value. So we started our journey with BDA and OneStream in 2022. And I would characterize like, spring, summer start, really getting to work hard on an implementation. We closed January 2023. We closed the books, ran consolidation in OneStream for the first time, and that was a successful endeavor. And then we did our first forecast in 2023, which was our 210 in OneStream, and that was a very successful endeavor as well. I can tell you selfishly from the planning and analytics seat that like the proof's in the pudding, right? So folks like me get derailed when close takes too long. It's not a reliable timeline. It's not as expected. Prior to us moving to OneStream, we were on SAP BPC, right? And so the reliability of when that close would occur wasn't nearly at the level that it is today. And so just from a starting point from a planning solution, we have a much cleaner start, right? And then now when you think about the actual planning side of the house, two things have really happened. One, we're able to orchestrate higher fidelity, more accurate, more comprehensive forecasts and budgets that make sense. And while a significant amount of our time prior to OneStream, like guys like me, up super late at night, game playing the system, figuring out how to work around my current problem, because as a global organization, throw out two examples. Canada, for some reason, has issues uploading into BPC. What am I going to do? Can't do a forecast without Canada, right? And then I've got folks in Kutz, Germany calling saying that they have some other upload functionality that's being really intermittent, and they're having difficulty validating whether or not their forecasts are properly reflected in BPC, right? That's never happened since the 210 last year. There's never been a day that OneStream hasn't been up and running. And the time it takes to actually execute a forecast, and what I mean by that is the time it takes to bang numbers into a database is now extraordinarily minimal. And while our forecast timelines have shrunk a little bit, right? The vast majority of the time that we're spending planning is spent talking with the business. So I've got plant controllers spending a lot more time both on the floor and working with plant managers or branch managers on making business impact, right? Senior planning leaders within our BUs are spending time within sales, operations, procurement, HR, and helping the business close critical gaps with a sense of urgency that we couldn't have before. We may have had the urgency, but we didn't have the bandwidth to tackle those business issues because we were constantly fighting a system. And so with OneStream, what we've been able to do is turn the page and focus on improving the business. And planning is a tool that we use to hold folks accountable for those business improvement objectives. And so that's really been one of the biggest things we've achieved thus far from a planning perspective. I would say moving forward, our next steps to kind of give you a flavor of like, this is a journey. It doesn't really end, right? So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to start to contract day by day the number of days we're actually willing to devote to planning, to our forecast cycle, in an effort to give even more time back to the business, right? But that notwithstanding, the amount of time folks have spent doing low value production related activities is now to a minimum. And what has benefited is our ability to impact the business and then use forecasts more as a tool within individual sites and individual BUs to drive improved business performance.
Incredible. It's great to hear about how much you've accomplished as well as a business with one technology, right? Outstanding. We've had a minor glitch. Anyone that asks a question in the chat box, for some reason the names aren't coming up, so we're finding it really challenging to get back to you and take them all down. Could you just introduce yourself and put your name in there as you ask the question, please, so that we can get back to you? Chris, one of the things that I think, I love to put myself in the shoes of our clients, right? That way you can truly sort of help them and I guess guide them through these processes. One of the things when I think about, coming from SAP Enterprise, 20 years of investment, using these systems for so long, they're ingrained in the business, right? They're super ingrained. And you talked a little bit about how Black Diamond Advisory being global and that advisory piece really helping you adopt OneStream and deliver and roll it out. How is the change management? Like, how's the user adoption been? And there's a couple of layers to that. So obviously you've got the SAP side of it, of people going, this is a big change for me as a user. You've got the consumers of that information, but you've also got the people that are going to maintain it. So, change management maintenance, how have you gone with that?
Yeah, you got it. So I think I would throw that down. I think there's three camps for that, right? You've got the IT folks that have to support the system. You've got the planners that actually have to plan in the system. And then you got the C-level folks that actually want to consume data out of the system. So I think you kind of got to hit all those separately. Yep. So when you think about it from an IT perspective, and not speaking for our IT folks, but let me characterize it this way, because again, like a planning guy watching how long close takes and how reliable close is, here's the proof. I used to have on that whiteboard, on a magnet, this ridiculous global phone tree. And if it was 1 a.m. here and I've got a North American BPC problem, who do I call? If I get an issue in the middle of the night out of Germany and need somebody to deal with something before it's morning hours here in the US, I've got 3 different tiers of support I can hit with BPC, right? It was ridiculous, right? Yeah. And then I got users who, and I'm like, look, I mean, 50, 100 people engaged somehow in planning around the world in one way, shape, or form, right? And do you think every one of those people, I mean, I ran planning analytics, so I got the phone tree on my whiteboard. You think all those folks have the phone tree on their whiteboard? Maybe, maybe not, right? So then there's a lot of orchestrating on how to get things rolling, right? There isn't a phone list anymore. And I'm not being dramatic by saying that. I'm saying that we've got a couple folks that you reach out to if you have something that needs to be addressed, but the system is extraordinarily reliable. We did a 210 forecast in 2023. Ever since then, there's never been a day down. I can hit OneStream from an airport, from an airplane, in the most ridiculous, I mean, from a conference room because someone has a question. Like, it's just it's a night and day difference. And so to think that that's not impacting the people that used to have to really keep BPC rocking for us, it's had a meaningful impact on those folks. From a planning perspective, I get calls, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, look, we globally, folks may have complained just about the reliability of BPC, right? But sometimes the solution you got, as ineffective or problematic as it was for us, is better than the unknown. And you always worry about how creatures of habit, and us finance folks sometimes fall into that category, are going to adopt a new system. And the one tip I'll give folks is, like, during your user acceptance testing, it's important to engage key power users and just influential planners within your organization. And because when you get them on the same page, it's going to kind of be like they're going to evangelize, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to have any issues with adoption. But what I will tell you is, the people, if we have to, like, look, people that had, let's say, less technical capability, who might have taken the people with coming in last with their forecasts in BPC, the people with my biggest forecast issues, those people wrote me emails unsolicited saying, this is life-changing. Things that used to take 3 to 5 days, I can do. And I'm not exaggerating. This is just life. It takes a day or less. All this time spent troubleshooting, fighting a system, or just the paranoia of making sure your numbers are properly reflected. Or, hey, I need an additional piece of analysis to complete a forecast. So now I got to go into BPC, get a whole bunch of information, spin it, analyze it. That's a very high tax time, right? So you might have urgency, but you can't act with urgency because you don't have a system to support you. That's all gone. So I have emails from users on how much of their life they're getting back. And then ultimately, from a professional perspective, reinvesting to actually make an impact in this company, right? And so that's been very meaningful for us. And then finally, let's talk about the end users, the consumers of the financial data, right? So senior leadership. So what we rolled out this year was standard reporting, and we use OneStream for our standard reporting platform. So at every location that we have globally, immediately after close, and it's a highly automated system, BDA had to help us carry the rest of this solution over the finish line to really automate the distribution of this content. But in-house, we developed a deck, a significant financial overview deck for each of our locations. And then each of those locations rolls up in our hierarchy, right, into a sub BU, then to a BU, and then to ultimately to DexKo. You can look at a site the same way you can look at a sub BU, the same as a BU, the same as a toll company, same lens, right? All in OneStream, all automated. You click a button, a massive series of reports cranks out, and then BDA helped us orchestrate something where, with a click of a button, then you can export all those reports into our Microsoft Teams environment, and then securely we share that across the organization with the people that matter, right? So plant managers, branch managers, the controllers, and then all of our senior executives around the world. And so what that's done for us is, not only is everybody speaking the same language, CEO, CFO questions come in from the same framework, using the same language that a BU or a plant is looking at their financial results in, right? And so that's allowed us to really, have much clearer dialogue around what's driving performance. And then in addition to that, it's allowed some cross-pollination of ideas, where we allow certain businesses that are very homogenous to look at each other's results, learn from what the winners are doing, and helping those that have gaps improve their gaps based on the performance that's being generated out of your quote unquote winning locations. And so from a standard reporting standpoint, executives love the fact that they have more information at their fingertips in the context in which they want it. And they have this lens that as soon as they fire a question down, wherever it goes, ultimately the answer of that question is looking at the same report every single month. And so like we never could have done that in our BPC days. It would not have physically been possible. But it's something that, if you think about the fact that we rolled that out just a hair over a year after our first forecast in OneStream. It's a journey that the results are, they're cumulative, and it's like exponential growth, right? Every future improvement that we do builds upon the previous, and the results just keep accreting in value.
Yeah, it's that reusability, isn't it? You touched on something there that I think would be really great for the audience. You were talking about that breakdown of your hierarchy and that extensibility. One of the differences and one of the core, secret sources of OneStream that's affording you the ability to do that and supporting that business interrogation, that business insight, is something called Extensible Dimensionality, which I'm sure that people that want to continue to have a look at OneStream off the back of this, that's something that they can show, because it's interesting. You're leveraging that innovation in the platform that enables the platform for actuals and forecasts to be at various layers of granularity. But you just called that a standard report. I mean, that's not a standard report in these legacy technologies, right? So I wanted to get onto the behaviors and, the behaviors that are now being born across your organization. And, some of the behaviors now, it seems like, to me, what I'm hearing is you've got this best in class system that you're just used to now, and it's just the benchmark. It's calling something like that a standard report. I mean, what was that report before when you were in BPC? Was that possible?
Yeah, I mean, there are elements of it that were possible, but globally, certainly, it was just, quite frankly, impossible. I think
Yeah.
when you talk about the change the change of behavior that's manifested as a result of it too, it's like when you think about the optionality you have within OneStream, you can have multiple hierarchies, and this has been touched upon, but it's really underappreciated. Like all of a sudden, you have an executive that says, "Why don't we just look at this? Why don't we look at a piece of our business differently? And why don't we take a look at this business as if we have multiple roll-ups, and those roll-ups and those hierarchies matter, because when we've looked at our business in different lenses, there's different nuances that you observe, and you can make real money off that. And so, being able to take a piece of our business, customize it into a standalone entity, and then analyze it, that's something that doesn't take effort anymore. It's a phone call and an email, maybe a 30-minute meeting, and all of a sudden you have an alternate hierarchy in which you can start to glean some insights. So if you're an organization that's like very multi-location, has a lot of intercompany activity, right, or is in a lot of different geographical regions, those alternate hierarchies really can give you some additional insights. And now those are things that, look, does our CEO think about alternative hierarchies? No. But does he just ask questions that we spin up a hierarchy and we throw him something? Absolutely. And so it's interesting to see that how executive behavior has changed just because the tax to analyze, the tax to retrieve information is literally removed.
Fantastic. So, time flies when you're having fun, right? So, Chris, this has been outstanding. Thank you for sharing your story. Really, really appreciate it. I'd love to go into more detail, but time doesn't allow it. We've got a lot of questions, so I apologize to everyone. We're going to have to come back in written form with those. If you've got any more, please keep them coming in. I'm sure Chris will work with us on answering some of those, so we'll make sure it's straight from Chris's mouth. So, it's been a great session. We can't thank Fred. Thank you so much. Chris, thank you so much. If you are looking for a little bit more information, please feel free to get in touch. Contact details are on this page. We do have OneStream Splash coming up in Copenhagen next week. Would love to see you there. We've got a couple of spots on stage. We've also got drinks on Tuesday night, so it's going to be some great fun. And again, we're going to look to probably go into the covers a little bit more after this. We're going to have a look at our next webinar around SAP coming up, sort of October, November time. So really appreciate everyone joining. Thank you so much. And we'll share the recording with everybody as well. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.